This is Tom Kozlik from Hilltop Securities, and this is our economic and municipal market update this week with a legislative focus. On the economic side and on the municipal side, all eyes are on Congress right now. The House and the Senate both returned to D.C. this week. Lawmakers are currently working on a fifth phase of COVID relief, or what we're also referring to as COVID-5. Others are calling it the fourth phase, but we're in the camp that's calling it the fifth. A key element for the economy is whether an increase in unemployment benefits is going to be continued past next week's expiration. A key element for state and local governments and public finance is whether or not lawmakers are going to include meaningful aid for them. The CARES Act didn't include meaningful aid. It really just included about $150 billion for state and local governments. It's estimated now that state and local governments have budget or revenue shortfalls amounting to about $1 trillion, and that $150 billion of CARES Act aid can only be used for COVID-specific expenses, so it's limiting the use of that money. Already, state and local governments have laid off about 1.5 million workers, and just through April alone, state and local governments laid off more workers than they did in the entire week of the Great Recession. So, where are we now? In May, the House passed its $3 trillion HEROES Act, which included about $1 trillion for state and local governments. This week, Republicans in Congress and the White House are streamlining and prioritizing their agenda, and we expect to see a bill from the Senate Republicans soon. What's the Republican bill likely going to include and not going to include? Right now, they're still trying to figure out how to handle the expiration of the unemployment benefits. On the municipal side, Right now, we're not expecting that they're going to include state aid. We are expecting that there could be some kind of expansion for that $150 billion that states got in the CARES Act. For example, they might be able to use that $150 billion for an expanded use, like to help with their budgets. It wouldn't be limited to just COVID-related expenses. We're also hearing that about $100 billion of new relief could be earmarked for schools. Whether or not or how that is connected to schools returning physically to class in the fall, we're not certain. We're going to need to see the details about that. After the Republicans release their bill, negotiations across the aisle are going to be in full swing. We're not certain how long this is going to take, but the Senate right now is scheduled to leave D.C. Friday, August 7th. It's hard to predict how these negotiations will proceed, but we're going to do our best to give you an idea of where we think the final package is going to end up. Our expectation is that the final amount comes in as a compromise between both parties, something that is going to range between $1 and $2 trillion. That's because the Democrats proposed something that amounts to about $3 trillion, while right now we're expecting that the Republican bill is going to be probably a little over $1 trillion. We're still expecting something in the range of $500 billion and $1 trillion for state and local governments, although every day that goes by, we think that that could be closer to the lower end of that range versus the mid or higher range. But we'd still think that something, even at the low end of that range, would be described as meaningful for state and local governments. Thanks for watching, and you can expect our next video is also going to be focused on Washington as we await more details from lawmakers about what this fifth phase of COVID-19 relief is going to end up looking like.